In this video, I'm going to introduce the SQL select statement, which is a part of the DML or data manipulation language subset. At its most complicated, the select statement has 6 clauses shown here in red. You have the select, from, where, group by, having, and order by. The only 2 required clauses are select and from, and in fact there are certain situations where you may just use a select by itself, but in this example or in the rest of this video we'll always have a select and a from clause. In general, a select statement is part of identifying what columns or fields I want to display in the result. From is talking about what tables are we pulling those fields from. Where or what rows or records do I want to display? So I can design it such that when certain conditions are met or not met, determines when I return a certain record or row. Right now we won't be talking about group by or having, but basically group by is used when we want to aggregate data across the group. So I want to take a sum or an average, max or min, and I may not want to display all those groups. So the having clause is a way to eliminate certain groups based on a certain condition. And finally, order by is for sorting the data ascending or descending based on one or more columns. For the rest of this video, I'm going to just focus on the select, from, and where clause, and other videos will get into order by and some of the special things I can do inside of the select clause. So, opening up my SQL workbench, I already have examples that I want to go through already typed. And basically we're going to cover, as I mentioned, select, from, where, and in the where clause there are operators that we can use inside of there, and so we'll demonstrate all of that. To begin with, as we've seen in previous weeks when we were creating tables and inserting data, you probably saw me use a select star from a particular table. Well, in this case, I'm using the bookstore database, which I have selected. I've already expanded my tables just so I can see what tables I have in here. And for a lot of the demonstration purposes, I'll be using the books table. Okay, so what star does is say I want to select all the columns. I'm not going to limit what I display. I want to display everything. So when I run that, you'll see very quickly that returns all of the data inside that books table. So now I can recognize I got an ISBN, title, a public date, a pub ID, cost, retail, discount, and a category. Very often when I'm new to a database, I'll just do a select star from a particular table and just to see what's in it, what columns are there. Now of course I can also use the GUI interface, select books and columns, and I'll see the same list right here. And also, rather than type select star from books, if I right click, there's a command at the top to select the top 1000 rows. When you click on it, it opens up in a new window and you'll get the same statement, select star. They'll list the database dot table. As long as that database is selected, I don't have to list the database as you saw in my example back here. So same statement, but I just typed it and I didn't list the database because I already have it selected. More often than not, I don't want to see every column. I'm only interested in certain columns. And so in the select statement, I will list what columns do I want to display in my results set. So I will select the title, category, retail, and cost. And then, of course, I'm not seeing the ISBN or the pub date, pub ID. So you list the columns. You don't put them in quotes or anything, but you do separate them but with commas. So now let's take a look at our where clause. So in the same way that I very often don't want to see every column, I want to list certain columns. I also don't want to see every record, I only want to see certain records. And so you have a where clause and you type a column. In this case, I'm saying the category column. I'm going to move this up so you can get an example. So in my category column, I have a self-help, cooking, family life, fitness, computer, literature, and then, oh, there's a business category. Well, for instance, your boss may only want to see the books that are in a particular category. So you'll say where category equal family life. And now that is a piece of text, that category, the data in there, and so I have to put it in quotes in order for it to work properly. And then I'll select that and hit run. And now I'm seeing all the books, all 2 books that are in that category. Now, of course, I can use a where clause. I can look for things that match a certain numerical value. So it can be greater than, less than, equal to. So in this case, I'm saying show me all the books where the cost is greater than 25. Notice the 25 is not in quotes because it's a number. You don't put numbers in quotes. And so now these are all the books where the cost, the very right-hand column, is greater than 25. And I'll mention right here, you don't have to display a column. Remember, the select is for what columns you want to display. You do not have to display a column that you're putting in your where clause. So if for some reason I don't need to see the cost, but I still only want those books that cost more than 25, I can take the cost column off my select statement, select that, hit run. I'm getting the same result, I'm just not seeing the cost column. Now, I mentioned numbers we don't put in quotes, text we put in quotes. Dates are unique in that you do put those in quotes. I'll move down my result grid. So if I want to, for instance, find all the books that are published after a particular date. All right, so I have my columns listed, and I went ahead and included the published column. Obviously, I didn't have to, but I do want to see it this time. From this table, where the pub date is greater than that particular date, and you have to put the date in the Y month day format, similar to this, and in quotes. So if I run that statement, I can see that there's only 3 books, that are after 2006 January 1st, right there. What I'm showing here to the right is what happens if you try and use a different format. Surprisingly, MySQL doesn't give you an error, but it does give you bad data. So I'm saying are the pub dates greater than 1/1/2006. When I run that, I get results. I have a green check in my output window, and yet when you look through the results, here's things from 2004, 2005. So the results are wrong by putting it in this format. Even if I put dashes in here and rerun it, I still, same thing, I'm getting 2004, 5. So the query runs, but the results aren't correct. So again, the important part here is it needs to be in quotes and it needs to be in the year, month, day format when I'm using dates inside a where clause. Very often I want multiple conditions, or I want to look at multiple conditions, and so in SQL, in a where clause, I can use an AND statement or an OR statement. Recall that an AND statement is both conditions have to be true. An OR statement, either condition has to be true in order to return a record. So in this example below, I'm selecting 3 columns, title, retail, category, where the category equals computer and retail is greater than 50. Both conditions have to be true, so I'm essentially asking for computer books that have a retail price greater than 50. So when I select and run that, there's my category computer, and all of the books have a price greater than 50. Now if I change that word and to an or, what is that going to return? Well, that's going to be computer books, all computer books, irregardless of their price. And it's also going to return any book from any category whose retail price is greater than 50. So either condition can be true, and I will return that book. So if I select that, I'll get all the computer books. Here's one for 25 bucks. And then I got a family life book and a child book. And how come those were returned? Because the retail price was greater than 50. So that's with the OR statement. Either condition is to be true. A mistake I'll see students often make is somebody may make this kind of statement. I want to see the books from the family life and the computer category. And presumably what they're asking for is all the books in family life and all the books in computer. And because they see this and keyword, they'll write it. Let me change this to an and. And when you run that, you're going to get, let me run it, and we get nothing back. Let me move that down. Because books cannot belong to this category and that category. Running back to our original select star, in our database, books can only belong to one category at a time. So by putting an and statement there, of course, you're going to get nothing because no book belongs to computer and family life. So what we're after here is an or. Show me the books that belong to computer or family life and return them if either one of those conditions are true. So now I'm getting my family life books and the 4 computer books. I can also use and or with numbers. So where the retail price is greater than 30 and it's less than 75. So you run that, and now I'm getting books whose price is greater than 30 and less than 75 in that case. Now that's a legitimate way to write this query with the retail greater than 30 and less than 75, but there's also a better way using a between clause. And I don't know if it's better, it's different. The between clause, you have to be careful of because it is inclusive. So when I say select title and retail from books where the retail is between 30 and 75, so by the way, the between clause, you type the word between, give it one parameter and then and the second parameter. This is including $30 books and $75 books, where how I wrote it up here, notice I don't have an equal sign. So this is a little bit different. It just so happens in our database we don't have any books that are exactly 30 or 75, so it doesn't matter. But just be careful that the between clause is inclusive. It will grab things that equal the 30 and the 75. So I get the same result, but just using the between clause. Now let's take another example where we'll use the or clause, and then I'll show you a better way of accomplishing that query. And so the query is this: show me books from these 3 categories: family life, self-help, and computer. Spelled wrong, computer. So I'm selecting title retail category from books where this is one way to do it: category equal family life, or category equal computer, or category equal self-help. It becomes a lot of typing in this situation, and also recognize you have to type the word category each time. Very often I'll get students who will just say category equal family life or computer or self-help, and you'll get an error. It won't run. So you have to type the word category every time after an or an and clause. So if I run that, I should get books from all 3 of those categories. It runs just fine. So I mentioned there's an easier way. It's the in clause. So I will select title, retail, and category from books where the category is in, parenthesis, and now you list the 3 categories. And so now I'm not having to type the word category over and over again. I'm saying I want where category is in, and just view this as a list of things I want. So that's an easier way than writing several or clauses. So I get the same result set, but a little less typing. And I can also have, it doesn't have to be text in here. If I wanted where retail price is in and I list 3 or 4 prices, it would return all the books that have a price that's in that list. So just view this as a list. That's how you use the in clause. It can be used in place of an or clause. So the next operator we'll talk about is the like, and I use the word clause here, which probably is not accurate. I should just call these operators the in operator, the like operator. And the like operator allows us to use wildcard characters. And so how that's used is I'm moving to the customers table in this database, although I could do the books also. But we have a table called customers, and if I select the top 1,000 rows, here's what's in it. Right? Select star from customers as a number, last, first name, address, city, state, zip, whether they've been referred by another customer, and their region. So moving back to the like operator, I want to find all the customers whose last name begins with S. Okay, so how it's used is last name, where last name is like, you need single quotes, and then in this case I want it to be their name begins with S, so I type S, and then the percent symbol is a wildcard, meaning I don't care what comes after the S, it can be anything. So I can now run that, and this will give me all the people with S as the beginning letter of their last name. What if I do the percent symbol in front of the S? Well, that's saying I don't care what's in front of the S, but the S has to be the very last character. So this is going to give me all the people whose last name ends in S. So Morales, Jones, and Lucas. So it's like single quote, percent S, percent, or single quote. In my next example, I did do that, like single quote, percent S, percent. So what that's going to return is, I don't care what's in front of the S, I don't care what's behind the S, I just want an S somewhere in the name. So if I select that and hit run, I will find S anywhere in the name. So it can be at the end, it can be at the front, it can be in the middle, like Pearson. So this, if you do the percent on both sides, it's just saying I need that character someplace. There's another wildcard character that can be used in the like operator, and that is an underscore, and that is a positional wildcard character. So the example being first name, last name, customers, from customers, where, last name like, single apostrophe S underscore I, meaning I want all people whose first name or last name begins with S. I don't care what's in the second character. The third character has to be an I, and after that, it can be anything. So we'll run that, hit go. And so obviously it's pulling up the Smiths. If somebody happened to be S something else I, it would pull that up also. So again, that underscore, it represents a wildcard character in a position, whereas the percent is any wildcard characters, in this case after the I. Now be careful, I'll see students do this a lot. So they'll make two mistakes. One is they'll say equal, and for instance they'll say equal like. I want where the last name equals like, and so no, that's not the syntax, it's just last name is like. That's one mistake. The other one is they'll put equal and then they don't use the word like, but they try and use the wildcard character. So no. Now in this case, what processor's going to try and do is look for somebody whose last name is S percent. Percent in this case is not a wildcard operator, it is literally a piece of text it's looking for. So that percent symbol only works with the like operator. Okay, we're getting down to the last few here, and the next one is the not operator. I have the word clause again. So not can be used with a lot of the other operators. So I can say not like, not between, not in, not equal. So you can use not with the others that we've already discovered or discussed in this video. So select title, retail, books, and I'll go ahead and put category in my select statement so we can see the results. From books where the category is not in that list. So here's my list because I have an in operator. So now it's going to be all the books that are not in that list. So sometimes it may be easier to write your list and then say show me everything that's not there. So in this case I'm seeing cooking, fitness, literature, children, business, because those are categories not in this list. In the same way I can say show me all the books whose retail price is not between those two numbers. So what does that mean? That means obviously it's going to be retail less than 30 and the retail greater than 75 by putting it's not between those two numbers. So you hit select, and now I'm seeing all the books less than 30, greater than 75. And finally, the last thing I want to cover in this video is how to deal with null. And I use the word values here. I probably shouldn't. Again, that should be null markers, because remember, what does null mean? It's an unknown value. It doesn't mean zero. It's not blank. It's not space. It means it's unknown. Because of that, you can never ask the question, does this field equal null? So I'm going to the books table again, and there's a column called discount. So running over here just to take a look at that. So the discount, some books have a discount, others it's an unknown value. The discount's not zero, it's just a null value in that case. Okay, so let's say I want to return all books that don't have a discount. You cannot do equal null, right? Because you can't equal something that's unknown. It doesn't know if it's equal to it or not. All you can do is saying it's either is null or not null. So I think I just changed this up. It was is before. So those are my two choices. It's either is null or not null are the two things you can ask about fields and with regards to null value. So in this case, it's going to return all books that have a null marker in the discount column, or I can say is not null, and so that's going to return obviously all books that have something there at that point. So those have a value there. So just be careful, because I'll continuously have students put an equal sign with the null value, and you cannot do that. I'll just mention one other column in the bookstore database that we're using this quarter. Under the orders table, there's an orders table, and it basically has an order number, the customer number, the customer who ordered it. There's an order date and a ship date. And if you scroll through this data, all of a sudden you'll notice on some cases the ship date has a null marker, and that's because possibly it hasn't shipped yet. Now obviously this data is old, but I think the idea being you could have a situation where you have an order date, a ship date, and there's nothing there because it hasn't been shipped yet. So that's another column in this database that has some null markers in it. So in review, that was just a quick overview of mostly the select and the where clause. So scrolling to the top, we basically demonstrated I can select every column or choose my columns, and then I can decide what rows to return based on all these different operators, or, and, like, in, not, null. You have to view these as tools, and so that if somebody just asks you a question like show me all the customers from Florida, New Jersey, and Maine, that you go, oh, I think I'm going to use an in operator. Or I could say where state is in Florida, or state is New Jersey, or state is Maine. You get the idea. So it's just kind of understanding what each of these operators does, and then for you to decide how to use them to answer whatever business question you're trying to answer with your database.